Absolutely. Um, so I'm wondering what y'all did. Remember last week, for those of you that were here, we were talking about um, like what you do kind of in preparation before your yoga practice. I mean, there's this sense, there's this thing in yoga, the yamas and the yamas, and one of them, the yamas are more about what you do to kind of purify or get ready, right? So remember, I do things like brush my teeth or wash my face, and right now I'm putting on um, hand lotion because it's so damn dry in Minnesota, right? Putting it, and just like knowing that I'm gonna bring or try to bring the best version of myself to my yoga practice. Now, cleaning up is not the only doorway, the best part of who or what you are, right? But that's an interesting question. Like, what parts of you or what part of you did you associate with your best part or your best student, right? Like, what is what is your best student or best receiving version of yourself? How do you access that? Now, getting like brushing your teeth and washing your face is only one kind of goofy ritual or whatever you do to kind of get ready to say, okay, I'm going to take this, what I'm about to do, seriously. I'm going to like bring the best version of myself. And there's a feeling. I know the times where I don't, believe me, I practiced a ton of stuff without having brushed my teeth, right? Right? I've done a ton of yoga like that. And if I'm honest and if I'm being truthful, which is another one of the yamas, when I don't do something to honor that I'm about to start practicing yoga, I don't practice as well. And so whatever that is, just start paying attention. Don't forget, it's not just the pose you're doing, it's how you go into the pose and come out of the pose. Like the yoga never stops. So even within your practice, but how you enter and come into like your yoga room or what you do, to go, okay. Because our culture doesn't spend, I don't believe, enough time accessing what we believe or feel is the best version of ourselves. And I mean, before you think outward, before you try to interact with the world, I mean, what is it? So as you sit here and ground, right? So you're going to sit up straight and tall. And don't do asana right away. Just sit. And remember, I believe that the practice of learning how to allow, how to let in what's happening right now is the foundation of your yoga practice. So like take an exhale. It turns out that exhalation brings you into homeostasis a little bit more with your parasympathetic nervous system, but that's a whole bunch of fancy words for it just makes you feel a little bit calmer, right? So pay attention to your exhale. Let things go. Keep your tongue in your lower palate. Soften your jaw. Notice your breath. Remember, B.K. Iyengar says the brain must be passive in a yoga pose, even when a yoga pose is getting really complicated. Because if it's not passive, it's judgmental. The mind ends up being judgmental. If it's not receiving all that's happening, it's making the world smaller, right? So you're doing things like softening your jaw, the inside of your mouth, relaxing the skin on your face, so you receive more. Noticing your exhale, so you receive more. So you allow, because that's one of the doorways to a good life. I don't mean allow all the weird, bad stuff happening in the world. That's different. I mean, right here, right now, I need to allow for space for M to be here because my mind resists. So I try to balance between inside and out in the beginning here. So start to an asana lift over the sensation of what it is to be you right now. Good. So start to feel your sitting bones and your feet on the floor on the foot pedals. There's a gentle down and a lift. So differentiate that. The sitting bones go down and lift up from the lower abdomen up through the spine. Now, as you start starting the effort, try not to lose connection to the whole room. Locate yourself in the room. Your spine is in relationship to what's you, around you. Re-soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Keep the tongue in the lower palate. The down, the up, and now spread more horizontally. Lift under the collarbones, spread the shoulder blades, hit them slightly down and slightly forward. As you do, feel your sitting bones and extend from the inner groin down to the inner heel. Let in the whole room again. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. There is a strength in you, quiet strength. Know it. Share it. Good. And then release. Take your sternum up towards your chin down over your sternum. Notice your rib cage more, the boundary. Your spine is more alert. It's hitting down and rising up and expanding. So in this position, your rib cage becomes more of the epicenter of your awareness. The movement, the breath goes in, you expand. On the exhalation, keep extending and lengthening. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. I'm wondering if you're like me, and at least in my yoga career, where when I'd come to class and I'd be all ready to class, and then I'd get impatient as the centering part happened. I'd be like, come on, let's get going. Let's like get, and then as I got to more and more, quote, whatever this means, advanced classes, a lot of times the centering became more and more longer. It's like, come on. It's like, I wonder what the teacher was passing on then. Why would they do that? Was it just self-indulgence? And for a lot of while, I did believe it was kind of self-indulgence as a student, right? And then I started going like, wait, maybe there's more going on. Or like what I believe, it's not what the teacher teaches, is what the student takes or realizes from what's being taught. Don't put so much pressure on me to know everything. Bring your best student. Realize as much as you can from whatever you can. So I started to like take in the centering part differently. Started to go, right when I'm expecting the class to begin, it slows down. What am I going to do with that level of expectation? Right? What am I going to do as my mind and watching my mind get impatient with it not starting? All these things are teaching you. It depends on what type of student you want to be. All right. So again, now sit up straight and tall. Remember, the balance between what's inside and out is what's crucial, right? Feel the air on your skin and the space around you, and stay sturdy on the inside through your spine. So do both. And then drop your chest and notice what happens when that happens, right? One of the things that is one of the gifts of an more active yoga practice is you start to realize what your spine feels like and where it is, like literally in your body. And you start to realize that a lot of the poses have to do with your spine. So again, now ground down through your sitting bones and lift up. But instead of just like lifting from your collarbones, notice what your spine has to do. Hit down through your sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee. Start to rise up, but try to follow the rise up through your spine. And then broaden across right here and across the back ribs. So as you're in this alert position where there's more strain in the muscles around here, don't lose your spine, right? Remember the space that it occupies, because human beings don't notice their spine usually until it hurts, right? That's how your spine usually gets your attention. It starts to hurt, right? And then when it hurts too bad, you can hardly function. And then release and drop out of it. And then on this next one, come to alertness with an inhalation. And then notice how the exhalation drops your shoulder blades, grounds your sitting bones, and then activate again on the inhalation. And then watch your exhalation. Watch the change in your rib cage. Now on this next inhalation, feel the expansion and exhale and come forward. And then inhale and come back up. Now I want you to inhale, hold your breath, come forward. And then keep your breath held and come on back up. Kind of sucks, huh? Right? It's like, wait. So now do what's natural. Take a breath, come forward on exhalation. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, ground. Right? Remember, you inhale, take in the world, maybe you pause and appreciate it, and you exhale and you prepare to be of service, right? So now lean over to the right. Again, we're just kind of like your spine long again. We're just kind of warming up and then go over the other way, right? Warming up, kind of just lengthening. And then the first way. And then the other way. And then forward. And then back over to the first side. And then back around the back of your chair, like you're doing a circle. Come over to the left. And then forward. And then bake your noodle. I'm an old person, so it's like I'm going to try to go the other way, and it's going to be hard. I'm going to go to the right and then forward the other way. Watching my spine the whole time. and then back around. And then I'm going to come back to center. The center never leaves you. It's not just physical, right? And then inhale and exhale and go to the right again and forward. Now I'm going the damn other way, just making sure. And then come back around, come back to the center. Often I make a joke, like I give homework sometimes to the teachers as I train them, say, tonight, brush your teeth using your other hand, right? You're gonna feel like, oh my God, I'm so uncoordinated with my other hand. Yeah, right? It's kind of crazy. Try to work both sides of your body, right? So I want you to lengthen your spine again. It's like, so I want you to come forward. Again, we're watching the spine in relationship to movement. So hit down through your sitting bones, lift your chest. Remember, there's no winning in a yoga pose. There's only what you experience. And then come back and then go the other way. Back up and over your chair. If you want to take your head back, do. If it doesn't feel safe, don't. Right? And then as you're back here, take an inhalation. I can't take as deep an inhalation here. And then I'm going to exhale and pull myself forward. And then I'm going to lift my chest. Again, I'm watching my spine. On an inhalation, coming back. Exhaling as I hit the chair. And then inhale again and take my head back. Or my chest lift and head back only if it feels safe. And then take a big breath or a breath. And exhale, pull yourself forward. And then come back to center. And feel the spaces, the circumference of where your spine has been. And then lift up if you can. Even if you can just take a little bit of weight. Right? And just dangle if you can. Like get more space in your lower abdomen and your low spine. Right? Especially if you sit a lot. And then come on back down. So when I lift up, for me, I have a harder time breathing. So my breath has to change. If I try to take a deep breath when I don't have the grounding underneath me on my sitting bones, it's like violence. So the fact that your breath needs to change depending on what your body's doing is a big insight. It's a big insight in non-violence, right? Doesn't mean I don't breathe. So I lift up. And it's especially hard for me to talk and do this. But I got to figure and be satisfied with a different breath and then come on back down. Being satisfied to what I'm given by the pose in relationship to my breath. Over time in practice, I'll get to breathe better in awkward positions, right? But you got to start with what you're given in a pose, right? So again, lift up to whatever point you can. Let there be a change in your breath. Don't be alarmed that it's harder. And then back down. And then forward again. Now I want you to take time with the movement and the changes you felt. Put your mind in the bottoms of your feet and heels. Feel where your sitting bones are. Lift your sternum. But now spread across your low back, your sacrum. And spread across your collarbones on the front side. So now you just added another layer. So, and then as you broaden, reground the sitting bones and lift up through your spine, through the top of your head. So now your vessel is more engaged. Notice your breath as it pushes against the circumference of your rib cage. Let that movement feed your legs. So the expansion of your rib cage actually fills the vessel. And then exhale and lengthen. So again, I'm wanting you to make a connection from the inner circumference of your rib cage to the subtle sensation of your whole body. And then lengthen your spine on exhalation. And then come on back. And find the center again. Take a big breath in, or if that's not easy for you to do, just normal breathing, and exhale and come forward. Come farther forward. Mm-hmm. Stay inward and ground. Remember, I think it was last class, we were watching the transition from inward dimension to outward dimension. So you're forward, your head's down. You're in less space. It's harder to be aware of what's behind you now, right? And then start to turn and lift your chest and lift in the collarbones and bring more light in. Just a little bit. And then back down on an exhalation. And then feel your sitting bones, lengthen your spine. Start to inhale and raising your head up a little bit. And then exhale back down. Then on this, when you push yourself back up, I want you to take your left arm straight up in the air. Inhale, come on up, synchronize that movement. Come back up and over your chair. And then exhale it back down. Inhale, exhale, come forward. Mm-hmm. Inhale, push down through your feet, start to come up. Go into a fluid movement with your right arm right up over your head. Mm-hmm. And then exhale it back down. Now there's a pose, right? It's called, kind of like, it's Parigasana, so it's called latchkey pose, but I want you to come over and take your left arm up over your head and let it curve a little bit, right? And try to really feel length of this side stretch. Mm-hmm. And so you're not doing like the standing pose. You're literally just trying to open. Roll the shoulder blade in and down. Ground through your sitting bones. Get this stretch, try to get these intercostal muscles between your ribs to really open. Mm-hmm. And then come on back to center. So I think everyone should practice more awareness of the muscles between the ribs, right? Trying to get them to open more. It helps your breathing. Right? So you need to go the other way, right? So for me, going this way is always harder, right? So I'm going over, and I'm really trying to really emphasize this length. Not trying to do this, but just trying to get this stretch to open. So my body, because of my scoliosis, doesn't open as well. So I watch that. I allow that. I don't get mad about that. I just let it be true. Good, and then come on back up. So I want you to ask yourself the question that you should always do when you're practicing at home. I think you're always processing. So which side did you get a better stretch? Which direction? Because this next time when we do it again, I want you to make them better. And I especially said I want you to get the side that didn't stretch as well. And it's going to be different on every person. For me, it's my left side that doesn't open as well. But I want you to figure out what you need to do in order to get this expansive feeling, this opening feeling in your rib cage, right? So now go over to the right, which is my left, right? I'm watching this length. I'm trying to physically stretch it. Now, notice what happens when you're doing this. If you let your shoulder drop forward, notice what you feel. Notice if you open, spread here, and stretch even more. So keep this expansive to open this. Mm-hmm. Now notice what your breath can do. Now notice don't just be aware here, be aware of the bottom side too, as you're trying to open. And when you start to balance the downside with the upside, your spine has to lengthen. And now I'm taking the breath and I'm really trying to get this to open. I'm just showing you, don't move your arm. Good, and then come on back to center. Now I know I'm going into my not as open side. I can totally feel how this is beginning to open. Notice how it changes your breath. Elasticity in the intercostal muscles is a good thing. Getting your body to receive your breath better, the expansion of your lungs, it's a good thing. And serves in, okay? So I love this. So I'm going to start going. Try to get this to open more. Trying to open my chest a little bit, to open this. Using my breath to expand my rib cage into that space, into that stretch. Right, lengthening from here up through my armpit, turning it open, getting my shoulder blade down, lengthening. Good, and then come on back up. Now as you sit in the center, do you feel it equal from side to side? I don't. That's okay. So I'm going to lean forward a little bit, bring my hands on my thighs. So given that I can't equally stretch, right, as well, I'm coming forward and using the symmetrical feeling of my forearms on my legs or knees, or my hands, whatever you're doing, right? To now try to get more awareness equal from side to side, from the side that opens better to the side that doesn't open better on me, right? So I'm going to use symmetry. So I realize that for me, my ribcage tends to turn this way because of my scoliosis. So when I'm here, I'm going to turn and lead the part of my ribcage forward that's actually twisted back. So scoliosis, you have a rotation in your ribcage. So I know I have to untwist. And once I untwist, I'm going to press down through my left foot to lengthen the side of my body and open as well. So I'm trying to use symmetrical awareness to straighten myself out. And so these next couple of breaths are really important because my vessel is receiving differently. Notice the in, notice the out. Good, and then back up. So raise your hand if you think that you are really symmetrical and don't feel a difference from side to side. Does anyone feel that there isn't a difference from side to side? I just want to see, I'm looking through the pictures. It's like, I want you to know that Christy, there actually is, right? So, I mean, almost none of us are perfectly balanced, right? And so one of the ways, I turn a lot like this, right? So one of the awarenesses I have to practice is the empty space between this ear and this shoulder, right? So again, with your symmetry practice, feel each foot on each floor, each sitting bone, underneath each collarbone, but then try to feel the empty space on each side of your head, between your shoulder and your ear. Now, as I'm trying to be inward, more aware of the spaces on each side of me, how my rib cage, I close down this space when I actually fall into my scoliosis, right? So now by straightening my body, I'm becoming more receiving of the side of my awareness that I don't take as much in. Time to breathe. All this level of more symmetrical, full-bodied awareness will help every yoga pose you do. So you're actually taking time. So I can tell I need to turn my head a little bit because this space I always close. Good. And then release. So now I'm going to change some of the gravity. So now I'm going to back up and take my feet off the pedals. And if your feet are on the floor, spread your knees a little bit. Right? So now I'm wanting to get my groin, my inner edge of my thighs, a little bit more open. So I'm grabbing my chair section, my wheelchair legs, right? And I'm gonna move my knees away from each other. Ground now right away, as soon as I start efforting, I fall back into my turn in my spine, in my rib cage. So I'm gonna try to straighten out. I'm gonna hit my thighs against my knees, hit down through my sitting bones, and lift up through the core. So I'm making this a pose. Looks kind of goofy, but I don't care, right? Because I'm trying to feel more. Balancing the awareness between my shoulder blades and how hard they're working. Good. And then release. So then from this wider base, right? So usually we twist with our legs straight below us. This is going to be different. There's going to be some good things and not good things about this position. So take your left hand outside your right leg. So try to keep your legs still spread, right? Take the chair behind you. Now I'm just going to feel this different base. Ground through the sitting bones, feel where my feet are. Hit down through my sitting bones, lift up my lower abdomen. Make that travel up through my spine. Expand it by lifting the collarbones and broadening across the collarbones. Mm-hmm. Inhale, and then exhale and turn. But I'm still spreading awareness across my sacrum and directing it out towards my knees. So as I'm turning, I'm not bringing my knees closer together. And then take a breath or two. And then release. Come on back to center. Again, we're just trying to open the base a little bit. So I'm going to be in the center. Know where my spine is and feel what the pose just was. Right? Let that in. And then go the other way. Again, this is always the side for me that I gotta, in fact, be a better yoga student on the side that doesn't work as well. I can already tell that in order to do this, I push too hard on my leg. So I need to re-engage the separation between my knees, right? Grab the back of my chair differently. Ground my sitting bones, lift up through my core. Inhale, feel the expansion and the connection to the bottoms of my feet from my rib cage. Exhale and revolve a little bit. I can still feel it. I'm freaking pushing against my knee too hard because I can't twist as well this way. I have to accept that and work for quality in the twist, not for how far I can go. Good, and then release. And come on back to center. Feel the spread in your base. And now be more aware as you bring your legs back together. Bring one in, set it down on the floor, press it in and feel. Bring the other leg in, press it down and feel. Come back to symmetry. Notice the change in your base. So now maybe you can feel that you've stretched right through your inner thighs. So now lift up or whatever you can do to make space in your low back. And then set yourself back down. And then take your legs wide again. All right. Remember, how you move between poses is also part of the yoga. So I want you to lean over, putting your forearm down on your left leg, right? Take the other hand behind you. Stay grounded. So now you got this kind of weird thing going on. Your legs are wide. Your spine is elongating and opening. Mm-hmm. You're paying attention to your base and you're twisting a little. There's a whole bunch of twists that happen with your legs wide. Right? So you're twisting and rolling up. Now I'm going to really try to bring more awareness. I'm going to spread across the center of my chest, spread the shoulder blades, hit down through my sitting bones, rise up to the top of my head. Now the breath is tricky here. Figuring out how to breathe where it's not violent, but it actually has effort in it. What's that place? Good. And then release. What's funny for me, and I just did that, is that there's a place at the base of my neck that whole, every time I inhaled, it clicked, right, in my spine. Every time I exhaled, it released. So in that position, for whatever reason, something started happening to my spine. I'm going like, hey, that's cool, right? Didn't hurt at all. So clicking sounds aren't bad if they're not hurting, right? Okay, so now, again, I'm going to go the other way. So I'm going to come down. And it's going to be, I know it's not going to click on this side. I can already tell, right? So then I'm coming down and putting my forearm on my spread leg, right? And I'm my spread legs, and I'm grounding and then rolling myself open more. Oh, look what I want to do. I want to fall right into my scoliosis. Guess what? I got to lengthen both sides of my waist. So do you. Of my side armpit, my side waist to my side armpit. And then revolve open. Now my breath is really different here. For me, it wants to fill more in right here, right? Because that's the easy side. So I'm going to bring more awareness to the rib cage of this doesn't receive the breath as well. For me, that's the left side. So I'm going to breathe more into my left nostril. Feel and ground my left sitting bone. Lengthen my spine equally as I turn. Good, and then release. Sit up straight and tall with your legs wide like this. Bring your legs back to the midline. I'm going to rearrange myself, and I'm going to lean down and press down. So I just feel a lot of change and kind of, not irritation, but that was a long time for my legs to be wide. So I'm going to put my hands down on my thighs more, and I'm going to push down and slightly in. And I'm doing this so I can get relaxation in my groin, on my very inner upper thigh, because they just got opened pretty strong, right? So I'm going to help them heal, right? I'm going to help them feel safe again. And when I want to breathe into safety as much as I breathe into effort. So I'm using symmetry again. I'm trying to get equal. I'm being appreciative at the relief at the base of my spine and my groin. And I'm breathing everything. Good, and then release. So I have a table in front of me. I'll try to do it both ways, right? So I'm gonna take my legs wide again. I'll try to figure out what the instructions were if you don't have something in front of you. So I'm going back to have my legs wide and trying to equalize by pressing my arms into my thighs here, right? Oh, dang, the one hip is way tighter than the other hip. So I start to become aware of things I didn't really know all the way, you know, and then I'm going to try to come forward from here, right? So now my legs are wide and I'm forward. If you don't have anything in front of you, put your hands on the, don't fall out of your chair. Come forward. I'm putting my fists down on my seat, right? So I want to get my legs wide with elongation, right? So I'm pushing down on my seat cushion here and lengthening my spine. The only difference is now my base between my spine and my femur bones is wider, right? So I'm doing this. This is what you do if you don't have a table. I gotta be careful as I move with my legs off the pedals, right? And then those of you that have a table nearby, right? Your legs are wide and you're coming forward to elongate your spine. So now I'm gonna take time here because in my life, I don't get much grounding and expansion with my legs off of my foot pedals and my base wide like this. So I'm gonna pay attention. Right, so I'm going to start as my legs are wide. I'm trying to get my feet don't hit the floor perfectly, and that's okay. I could spend my life being aggravated by that, but I'm not going to be. I'm going to accept, right? And then I'm going to be forward, and now I want you to start to ground. Start to be aware of your both hands, right, and both feet. If you can be aware of the palms of your hands and the palms of your feet, or soles of your feet. Now, from there, find where each sitting bone is. And start to breathe, being aware of all those spaces. Those of you that are using a table, stay there. I'm going to back up as if I don't have a table, right? Trying to do it this other way. And again, I'm trying to practice an expanded awareness. So I'm being aware of the soles of my feet, my sitting bones, underneath each collarbone. And I'm breathing into the whole thing. Good, and then release. Bring your legs together like it matters. Find center again. Again, press down on your femur bones. Now we're going to make even this a yoga pose. So remember, the last time we did it was to bring some relief back to the groin, right? Now I'm going to want you to be forward like this, pressing down on your femur bones. And when you lift, I really want you to open and lift right here, right? So I'm going to roll my shoulders back, ground them down, lift this up on both sides. Ground my sitting bones and stay aware of the soles of my feet. And breathe. So I'm trying to have my rib cage, have the conditions around it, so I can start as I breathe into the suppleness in the intercostal muscles. There's an elasticity on the inhalation. My intercostal muscles expand and receive it. Doesn't matter if you take a deep breath. Doesn't matter if you breathe through your mouth or your nose. If you can breathe through your nose, go ahead. But let there be a coordination between the awareness of more of your body, the expansion of your rib cage, and your breath in and out. Good. And then come on back to neutral. All right. So now, of course, what would be any week without some even more dynamic expansion? So now I want you to lean over to your right. Right? Take your arm up. But now, hopefully, you're more aware of your rib cage. Right? So as you take your arm up, now I want you to roll the arm back. Lengthen this way. Hit down through your sitting bones. Take a breath or two, roll the shoulder blade in towards the spine of the up arm. Lengthen from your sitting bones out to the top of your head. Take the arm a little farther back. and then come forward, bring it down, consciously come on up to the middle, all right? And then go the other way. Again, this is my challenging way. I got to be way more aware of my challenging side, right? So I'm going to lengthen. Right, well, take my arm off, pardon me, I was ahead of myself. Right, and so I'm opening, but not just trying to take my arm back. I'm trying to roll my spine towards the up arm as I hit through the sitting bones and extend out to the top of my head. So my arm goes back, this side doesn't go as well, damn it. Not as open here. Good, and then come on back. And in fact, makes sense because this is my shorter side. So this is the type of thing, like, so aware of, like, so if like your back, and I'm thinking about you, when your back gets, so when I do it, when I go this way, I start to feel more strain through the thoracic junction here. So I got to make sure that I know not to overdo it. I know to maybe come out of the pose, because I've got to be in charge of my own body as I'm practicing, especially online, and then come on back up. Right, so again, I want to keep empowering you to practice knowing when a movement becomes not okay, right? Or a little bit like, and so you don't have to worry about that. But I also want to empower simultaneously you sometimes challenge yourself and not become complacent in your yoga practice. So it's this weird balance between knowing your limit and honoring it, and still be willing to do things that are slightly out of your comfort zone, right? And that interplay is constant in a yoga pose, right? And so, and this isn't really a limit as much as I can tell, it's not a good thing, especially if I hold it too long. When something doesn't quite feel right, don't hold it too long, right? And come back the next day and see if you can hold it and if you can keep it longer. If you're more sore the next day, then you know that, hey, I gotta watch that, right? But I need to build the capacity in this part of my thoracic junction of this movement. I know this is ultimately good, but I need to be patient enough not to rush it, okay? All right, so again, you need to be in charge of your own yoga practice. Okay, so now I want you to come forward. And Sarah, it's okay, I know what time it is, so you don't have to warn me about the time. Right? I want you to come forward and revolve. So we're trying to get this whole open sensation, not with the arm up, with the arm down, but still trying to open through the chest as I twist, and I'm locking my arm down in here to turn, but I'm trying not to crank too much. I'm trying to get a position where my breath can gently expand my rib cage, even though this is a strain, right? Because I still, even when the pose gets cramped and you're in a position, you still want the suppleness of your intercostal muscles between your ribs. So I'm a little bit more cranked and forced into a space, right? But I'm trying to still maintain the supple connection in my rib cage to my breath. Good, and then come on back out of it. I can always tell when I really hit something deep, my mouth dries out. So I right now need a couple of recovery breaths. So that means you're getting a couple of recovery breaths, right? And then come forward the other way. Revolve. Take the arm behind you. So now I can tell, because of my misalignment on this way, I'm not actually going to strain as much. It's because I'm not doing as good at yoga. So all this stuff I laugh at and I just know are true, right? So now I'm trying to revolve and open, lengthen my spine, and know that the instructions vary depending on which side I'm doing. So as you're trying to open here and expand, I can tell I want to fall into my scoliosis. So for me, I need to be aware of the back side of the right side of my rib cage, left side of my rib cage, right? So I'm trying to correct that as I elongate my spine and twist. And remember, you're trying to keep your intercostal muscles supple on inhalation and lengthen farther into the twist on exhalation. Good, and then come on back to center. So like, you want to have your inhalation create space, right? And so, so it's kind of like the inhalation is kind of like a door opening of fresh air, right? So it comes into you, right? And it's important that, it's not like a hot wind coming at you or too much strain. You really practice like the way the breath is coming in, whatever breath you're taking, right? And so right now, see, I'm talking to you, thinking about that, but I just intuitively did something really smart. I just put my elbows on the table, grounded the center of my chest, and was talking from a more balanced position. So what I want you to start going home with is figuring out, I hope you're starting to practice some of this at home by yourself, but when you need transitional spaces between poses. So the next pose you come to is even better, right? So I'm practicing a certain level of grounding, right? Good, and then back up. So I want you to come forward. Well, no, actually, no. I want you to lift up, get this space in your lower abdomen. Set yourself back down, keeping the space long, and then inhale and come forward. So you don't collapse or fold over the base of your spine. So what happens when you don't keep that space, what tends to happen is that when you come forward, you just crank your chest open from your low back. And that's never a great feeling, right? So I'm trying to get you to make sure that you keep this spacious between your pubis and your belly button. Set yourself back down without collapsing into your chair. And before you collapse down back to your chair, come forward. So keep that space on the radar and breathe. Now feel your heels and your sitting bones broaden across your sacrum, broaden across the collarbones. Feel each side waist, from your side waist to your side armpit. Feel each side of your head. And then watch the interplay of your inhalation as it nudges the inside edge of your rib cage. And as always, my left side of my rib cage does not feel the breath as much. I don't know what's true in your story. So in this position, I'm practicing symmetry in order to let the breath affect the intercostal muscles of my rib cage more equally. You will find that when your rib cage is more supple in relationship to your inhalation and exhalation, that you'll have more energy, but it'll be quieter energy. Good, then come on back up. Someone must have fallen off. Okay, all right. So sit up straight here again. So it's not just your actual breath that matters, right? The actual inhalation and the exhalation, but it's also the receptivity of your rib cage. So that's good news for someone that struggles with breath a little bit like me, or someone that just the attention to breath is difficult, like it throws you out of your poses. If you can be aware of how your rib cage is affected by your inhalation and exhalation, instead of just focusing on your breath, then you can start to bring the balance to how your breath is received. All this I've been thinking about and practicing since I heard in like the mid 90s a line from a senior Engar teacher that says, just a split second before your breath touches your rib cage, open your rib cage. Like a millisecond. Be there to honor your breath. That's my words, right? So there's a way where you can just follow the breath, like that's the front of the wave, and that's sometimes good. But there's also the inward dimension that it takes to be in the space that your breath and your rib cage actually fills. Just by a split second. I want to maximize the miracle of breathing with whatever breath you have. Good. And then prepare for Shavasana. So I'm going to do my one that I always do, because got my hands grounded, my arms grounded, they're light. My thumbs together. If you need to drop off of your cup, you'll be dropping off. Sorry, I went a little bit long. Now, with Shavasana, so either you're leaning against the back of your chair or you're leaning forward, you don't want to be so aware of your breath. So just let it go and become empty. Supported. Soften your jaw, the inside of your mouth. Soften the skin on your face. Ever so slightly. Smile. Let yourself be supported. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation. Slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes and let the light in, and then close it again, because you get to choose. Open your eyes again. So I remember when I first started practicing Shavasana and thinking about, what I was learning from it, and hearing that because I'm going to say it's the most difficult pose in his book, Light on Yoga, right? And I remember thinking, what the hell, that seems like hyperbole. And now I actually think that it's maybe the most important pose, not because it's relaxing me only, right? Not because I'm taking in nourishment, right? There's so many things happening in Shavasana. One of them, you're being taught by Shavasana. Remember, it's about what the student takes from a yoga pose and realizes, not the pose itself. Is that one of the things that I learned in Shavasana, one of the many things, is that the emptiness can be light and full, not heavy and lost, right? That dimension in you can have a supported lightness to it, not be the vehicle of loss, right? And a kind of a heavy collapsing feeling. All right, everybody, I'll stay on a little bit after the show if you have